Right, ready to go? So good morning, everyone. Welcome to this deep dive webinar. That's how we call a series of webinars that we are hosting under a project called Tourbit, which is a project funded by the European Commission. We have today our 6th session of this series of webinar, and it's on cybersecurity in the tourism sector. My name is Leonie Hehn. I'm from the Barcelona Chamber of Commerce. We are partners in the Tourbit project, and I'm your host today. And we have very nice speakers today here with me that I'll introduce you right in a second. If my slide changes and we can see the agenda of today. We have, first of all, a mini introduction to the project Tourbit, which is kind of the context under which we are hosting this series of webinar, and that Frederick will tell you a bit more right in a second. And then we'll have an introduction to the topic of cybersecurity in tourism businesses by Mirva Salminen. She's from the Arctic University of Norway. Thanks for being with us today, Mirva. Yeah, we all know that cybersecurity is of increasing importance for all businesses, and that also counts for the tourism sector, since in the tourism sector we are also handling a lot of customer data. So that's very important for us, but not only for the customer data, also to protect our systems, etc. But we'll have our experts talk about that right in a second. And then after Mirva, we have two interesting use cases, one presented by Tomas. He's a network and security IT manager at IEAISA. I'm not sure if that's the right way to pronounce it. Ingeniería, it's like an IT company here from Spain. And then we have a second use case presented by Lee Roy Tipton. He is CTO at AwareGO from Iceland. Good morning, the two of you as well. Welcome and thanks for being with us today. And right after their presentations, we'll have a short discussion and Q&A. So if there's any question that pops up while we go through this session, then please either remember it until the end of the session or type it into the chat, and then we'll address it right afterwards. And then we'll close the session in about 45 minutes from now. And with that, I'll hand right over to Frederick for the introduction of Tourbit. Frederick,
thank you, Leonie.
Please.
Thank you. I will be very quick on presenting you the main aspects of our Tourbit project, as mentioned by Leonie, funded by the European Union, the COSME program to be precise, under the call Innovation, Uptake and Digitalization of the Tourism Sector. The full title of the project is Fostering the Digitalization of European Tourism SMEs, so very clear. Starting from the very beginning of this year, 1st of January 2022, for 30 months, and the project coordinator is the Catalan Tourist Board. Here, an overview of the partners. You have 8 partners taking part of the project. You see them on the map and at the bottom of the slide. As I said, the coordinator is the Catalan Tourist Board, together with the Barcelona Chamber of Commerce in Catalonia still, the Welcome City Lab by Paris & Co in Paris in France, Actor company in Slovenia, us, the cluster Hospitality Brussels, hosted by the Brussels Enterprise Agency in Belgium, the Iceland Tourism Cluster, the Lapland University of Applied Science in Finland, and then the Tourism Innovation Center in Portugal. The general objective of the project is really to help the SMEs from the tourism sector to uptake all the new technological digital solutions that can be of help for their businesses, and innovation coming from it and fostering their skills, knowledge and network to do so. We ambition to channel that through a 3-pillar structure implemented by the project, a learning, building and testing and implementing 3-pillar structure that we can see right now in details.
Yes, I'll change the slide in a second.
Sure, no problem. Here's the three-pillar structure. Just to give you a little bit of context, this webinar is implemented under the first pillar, the known pillar, where we ambition to give to the SMEs, to the sector, the necessary knowledge and preparation to get inspired and launch digitalization projects within this pillar. For instance, besides those deep dive sessions we are organizing since the beginning of June, we also perform a series of interviews with stakeholders and experts on the field to make the right ideas and right needs emerging to better implement the rest of the program. We also achieved what we call a digital readiness index that is to be issued very soon, which is a self-assessment tool that will be offered to SMEs to assess their ability to integrate and to use and implement new digital solutions in their business. This self-assessment tool will be ready shortly, and we will communicate on the availability of this tool very soon. And also in the coming month, we also achieving a Go Digital Skills program, ambitioning to giving to SMEs the right expertise and mentoring to perform a series of needs that are needed from the SME to acquire the right skills and competencies to perform an ambitious digitalization project. Next to this pillar, we have the build pillar, which is mainly made of activities allowing you stakeholders, SMEs, and any other stakeholders involved in the digitalization projects to connect and to collaborate together. That's why we set up a Tourbit platform to encourage the collaboration with all stakeholders from the value streams involved, together with some other activities like a hackathon to be organized in the coming month, and also co-creation workshops also to be organized very shortly to encourage collaboration for prototyping new ideas and solutions. And the final pillar, nurtured by the two first ones, will be the test and implement one, to encourage SME to test and to implement those advanced digitalization projects through concrete support, financial support between 8,000 and 9,000 euro, depending on the country you are located, with the help of experts and mentors for implementing this project. Probably by next year, the call will be open. Stay tuned with us and we receive more information on the activities. Next slide, please.
Wait, it's taking some time to charge.
It's okay. But just to let you know that we are coming to the end of the series of the deep dive webinars. The one from today is on cybersecurity. One is to come also on blockchain, and stay tuned with the other activities that we're about to perform. We will issue very soon communication through social media and also news from the platforms. We really encourage you to subscribe to our future newsletters and certainly to join the platform that will deliver very quickly the next activities to come, and the activities will be intense by the end of the year and next year. I think that's it from my side. I give the floor back to you, Leonie.
Yeah, thank you, Frederick. Sorry for the problems with the slides. It took some time to have them changed. But here you can see again the overview of the webinars that we have hosted in the past, and that the last one to come next week on blockchain. Okay, with that overview on the project and this knowledge for you how to be able to participate and to benefit from our project activities, I'd like to hand over the word to Mirva to kind of dive directly into the topic of cybersecurity, which is the topic of today. Whenever you're ready, Mirva, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Now I'm concerned that you're not seeing the...
We're seeing the slides. If you can put them on full screen.
There we are. Perfect. This is
wonderful. Yes.
Good. Thank you. So I shall take over, and then I put the timer on so that I know when to stop. Thank you for having this opportunity to address this audience this morning. And then, as mentioned, this will very much be a introduction to cybersecurity. And that's what I work on. I've been working on that topic for about 10 years now for different employers in private, public, and also NGO sectors, currently at the UiT at the Arctic University of Norway. So the question that I posed to myself, what are the current cybersecurity threats and how to protect oneself against them in the tourism sector? So in order to be able to answer this question, I went through some news reports from last year, and then usually 3 main threats were mentioned there. One of them is anything. Now here it is mentioned as email-related threats, but basically it's anything that tries to exploit weaknesses in the human psyche and in everyday habits. So the threat vector is then the human being, vulnerability being the human being. And these kind of email-related and other phishing types of threats have been mentioned as the main ones in the tourism sector for the last year. I won't read through the slides, but the definitions are there just to give an idea of what I'm talking about. And these are coming from the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, their landscape report from 2021. The second vector, threats against availability and integrity of data. So then we are talking about threats that attack your services or target your services. What you have put online, you need to be concerned about the fact if you're able to provide the services regardless of if you're being under attack or if something else is wrong in your systems. So now we are talking about threats that either try to overload your systems or then to inject or modify information so that the people trying to look for your services are actually going to somebody else's website. And the third one mentioned, malware, especially ransomware. So last year, ransomware was, according to ENISA, the biggest threat throughout Europe, basically meaning that somebody takes over your computer systems and encrypting them so that you can't access them, and then tries to ask money for that. We had a big case like that in Finland as well. And then the easier version of that is any sort of malware that kind of gets into your system, into your networks, and starts changing something in there. And this threat vector then is data and access through network. And then the fourth one, which I put here because I think it's important, even if it wasn't on the top 3 ones, is all sorts of threats against data. Here the discussion is about leaks of sensitive data to actors that should not have access to that kind of data. And this is also a fourth thing that needs to be kept in mind the whole time when we talk about cybersecurity. So there are more different sorts of attacks and different sorts of threat vectors, but these are the 4 main ones from last year. And why should we worry about, why to think about cybersecurity? What does it have to do with tourism? So on the background is the COVID-19 experience and increased digitalization of all sorts of services and applications and functions and operations and pretty much everything that you can imagine being in the value chain system. There's also demand from customers. Customers want to share their photos, they want to book their accommodation, for example, through online services and so forth. The development of the environment in which also tourism businesses operate is going towards smart cities, villages, smart traffic, meaning that there's more and more of different digital opportunities to combine data and therefore provide a better user experience, in this case also the tourist experience. And of course, the last one on the list is the efficiency and cost savings to the corporation or to the business itself. As it was mentioned in the previous presentation was the Digital Readiness Index, and that is related to what I'm going to say next. So when you are digitalizing products, you need to ensure that you're doing that in a safe and a secure manner, instead of thinking about security afterwards, when you've actually done a decision to do something to make use of some of the opportunities that you have. But I usually think about security straight from the beginning because it makes your life a lot easier. The aim is to keep sensitive data safe what is sensitive data depends on the corporation, the business, but also, for example, from the regulatory environment that I will come back to. On top of that, you will need to be able to continue operations regardless of what happens, or have a backup plan so that at least some level of your operations will be available regardless of what happens. And then on the background, I come from the North, and then I did my PhD on cybersecurity in the Arctic. And you always have to have the question of, and the idea that you need good enough connectivity and availability of safe connections also to your customers. And this is a factor you cannot necessarily influence through your own investment, but this might be something that is more addressed through way of policies and putting pressure on the decision makers. But just to keep that at the back of the mind. What is then causing the aforementioned, or who is causing the aforementioned threats to tourism industry? The biggest actor, of course, is cybercrime, and then the consequences of successful cybercrime are financial loss, reputational loss. You can also lose the network on which your operations depend on because of lack of trust from your collaborators. And then the last thing mentioned there is cybercrime as a service. So it's also good to know that who is there on the other side doesn't necessarily have to have massive coding skills or attack skills. You can buy everything as a service nowadays. Combination of different sorts of cyber attacks that put a lot of pressure on your businesses, for example. The other thing to consider is competition. So there's a lot of discussion about manipulation of information, for example, on rating sites and customer reviews altogether. So it's also good to be aware of that everything that is, all the stories that are circulating in the industry are not necessarily true, and all the information provided is not necessarily true either. And then data theft is related to threats against data that I mentioned. So you may have data that is valuable without you necessarily even understanding it, but it might be valuable for your competitors. And that's, you should always think about what to do also from the outside. And as mentioned, there's increasing amount of regulation that needs to be taken into consideration. So it's not enough that you know the normal regulation that relates to tourism industry, but you also now need to be more and more aware of the regulation that takes place on the digitalization side. That's the main thing. One cannot protect against everything. So therefore you need to have a strategic approach. You need to choose what is your data, what is the data, and what are the functions that are primary, so important, so critical to you that you need to put focus on those, because there's also always a sparsity of time and money. So you can't really try to protect against everything, and perfect security does not exist. Therefore, you have to make the decisions, choices, and have a strategic approach to cybersecurity production. So what to focus on? Operations, people, and technology. For a long period of time, it was thought that information security was basically only about technology. But over the past years, people-centric approaches have come to the surface because there's been this idea that human vulnerability is the biggest threat in cybersecurity. And then also you need to know your operations, what your corporation is doing, and then what the opposing side might be doing. So operations, people, and technology. Remember all those three things when doing planning for cybersecurity. So how? And now these are my initial thoughts, and these are on different levels. Some of them are highly on the strategic level. Some of them come very much to back down to a everyday IT security. So the main thing is that the head of the corporation or those making the decisions take cybersecurity seriously and consider that as part of the business operations. Everything has been digitalized now to the extent that you can't really consider cybersecurity as something separate, but you need to have it integrated. And as I mentioned, when digitalizing, consider whether and how you can do it in a safe and a secure manner. Also, the basic facts for any kind of business management is that you need to know your customers, how they behave, what they do. For example, if there's a phishing attempt and an email comes from a source or address that seems legitimate, but the behavior of the actor is not what you expect, or how that actor should behave, or what he or she should or it should suggest, then you need to be wary of whatever is coming, even if it seems to be coming from legitimate source. So you need to know your customers. You need to know your regulatory environment again. And you need to know your own company. So its operations, dependencies, internal, external assets, including data assets, and then also the digital architecture. The basic starting point is to classify your data and services, as I mentioned, and then build requisite security solutions. And who and what helps with that is, for example, industry standards and good practices. Also, information provided, for example, national cybersecurity centers falls into this category. So depending on the country, some of these centers are more willing to kind of hold your hand and in building up cybersecurity, whereas in other countries, it's basically information provided online that is available. Then outsource what you cannot do by yourself, but you still need to know what you are outsourcing and how that is related to your basic functions. And then train your personnel and retrain them. Keep them up to date, keep yourself up to date with what is going on in cyberspace. And the one important thing is that you need to justify why you are training. Otherwise, the information doesn't go through and it doesn't help you much. Back to basics, batch and backup, and also dispose information carefully so that you're not causing a data problem to yourself while disposing information that is old or not useful to you anymore. Again, plan and exercise for doing something wrong, and then there's an increasing cyber insurance industry. And then for some corporations, this might be something to take into consideration. And what the insurance sector has available is kind of developing rather quickly at the moment. So these are some tips how to protect yourself. And it all comes down to a risk-based approach. This is from IEAISA Foundation, not from my own slides, but you need to know what the risks are to your corporation and then build scenarios on the basis of what I mentioned in the presentation previously. The actor threat community, what is the motivation of the actor? What is the possible threat event that you can imagine taking place? What would be the effects of that risk realizing? What are the assets and resources involved? And how crucial timing is, how timing impacts, how vulnerable, for example, your own corporation is. So basic risk management approach there, but I kind of moved to the digital environment. And with this very fast 50-minute speech, I would like to thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mirva. That was indeed a very, very complete, and for me at least, very enlightening presentation on the topic of cybersecurity. I think it's very helpful for businesses to have the very or most important points in mind on what to do and how to approach this topic. And so thank you very much. And with this introduction, we'll now get to a more concrete example of how we can do this actually in the practical terms. And with that, I'll hand over to Alex, who will present us a solution that can be implemented to enhance your cybersecurity in your business. Alex, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Can I share my screen? Second. Well, you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfectly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Tomas, and I am a network and security IT manager at IEAISA Ingeniería from Spain, from Barcelona, Spain. IEAISA Ingeniería is an engineering company that has three differential departments: the infrastructure department, the servers department, and the network and security department, the one that I am working on. Done the introduction, I would like to explain how to improve the security of your infrastructure as well as the user experience for your end users. In the last few years, security breaches have increased mainly for these reasons. We are increasingly using more and more SaaS applications such as Office 365, Salesforce, Dropbox, or G Suite, and we don't have auditable control of the use that the users do of the data and possible unauthorized access. Moreover, companies are migrating their application and services to the cloud, such as Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Platform, etc., often without securing communications or giving too many permissions. And the dispersion of the workplaces due to the COVID pandemic accentuated possibility security breaches. As teleworking was recommended for the whole world, now more companies are choosing a hybrid model. So people work from home, office, or anywhere. This is a reality that we must strengthen security. These three problems mentioned have caused that the corporate perimeter disappears because we don't have all the information centralized on our data centers. If we add to this that we don't have control of the devices that can be connected to our network, things get complicated. The questions that we can ask ourselves are, can we access to the data from non-corporate laptops or mobile phones? Even if the device that connects is corporate, are we constantly checking that the antivirus is turned on or the operating system is up to date? Another example, if I get connected with an iPhone or Android, can my company block a jailbroken or rooted device? If we cannot control all these settings, we have another big problem. To solve all of this, we can use Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA technology. Zero Trust Network Access is an IT security solution that provides secure remote access to an organization, applications, data, and services based on clearly defined access control policies. ZTNA differs from virtual private networks, VPNs, in that they grant access only to specific services or applications, whereas VPNs grant access to the entire network. Then it helps to prevent lateral movements. IEAISA Ingeniería is a partner of these three top brands, all included in the Gartner Magic Quadrant: Barracuda, Zscaler, and Lookout. As an increasing number of users that access to the resources from home or elsewhere, ZTNA solutions can help to eliminate gaps in order to secure remote access technologies and methods. The benefits of ZTNA are clear. Installing a very lightweight application on every corporate device, we can configure security policies in order that our employees are able to access from home, office, or everywhere, and also checking their identity using multi-factor authentication. In addition, ZTNA checks the device identity, verifying that the device is authorized, and check the endpoint security posture, which is a continuous check for security-related device data. With ZTNA, you will have access to data in a transparent and direct way, both to those who are hosted in our data centers and to all public clouds without having to pass the traffic through our headquarters, which leads us to minimize the cost associated with the VPN concentrator and the associated internet or MPLS lines to route all this traffic to the public clouds. In the case of SaaS applications, you will only be able to have access through the corporate devices. For better understanding, I would like to share an example of how the tourism business can take profit from Zero Trust Network Access. A hotel chain with a large number of hotels distributed across the world, working with many computers on each, they have to be connected through wired or Wi-Fi network to the corporate applications which have sensitive data of the customers. By installing the ZTNA application, you can be sure that the information is safe because you are avoiding access from unauthorized sources. As you have seen, ZTNA is a very useful tool for all kinds of companies that want to guarantee their security. So I hope you have learned more about this new technology. Thanks for your attention. If you have any doubt, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alex, for this example of a technology that might help us to enhance our cybersecurity. I think it's very relevant, especially also for the tourism sector, because people connect from different locations from home when they're traveling, when they're somewhere else. So I think it's very relevant, especially for companies that work with several employees to have a solution of that kind in place. So thank you for this, for this example. And I think we have another example. I think it's on the human side of cybersecurity that Lee will present for us right now from Iceland. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, my name is Lee Roy Tipton. I am from a company called AwareGO. We are an Iceland-based company with our development team in Croatia and in Prague. We have what we do is we work on the, like she said, we are on the human side of cybersecurity. We create solutions and a methodology to help companies like yourselves to create a healthy security culture with your employees, and we provide with assessments and trainings and all things that you need for that issue. Let's see. Well, like Alex said, we have been working on the technical sides of the cybersecurity for the last 20 years, and we are still getting hacked. But the reason is that now we have around 85% of all the hacks are successful breaches rely on the manipulation of humans in one or other way. And the reason for that is because Alex and his technical colleagues, they're doing such a fantastic job that the hackers simply move into the weakest link. They go where the weakness are, and that's the humans. So that's where the people are and the information there that they have. Because we have the policies, the processes, we have these, in most cases, we have the technology to prevent most of these, the big ones, even though some of them slide through, but we are really fast to get up to date and so. But this is the weakness point that we are having. And even though we are here talking about tourism today, it's still a global thing. It's affecting all industries. But now after COVID, we have all this, now we are, I think the travel industry is booming, if I get things right at the moment, because it's all starting again. And at the same time, the cyber attacks intensifies, because these are basically, that's where the money is, that's where they go. So that's why you're under attack. And then when you think about this security, cybersecurity, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen, really? How bad is it? And I'm glad you asked, because they can basically destroy your business if it's done. Because for small and medium-sized businesses, this really is it's just especially concerning, because 60% will shut down within 6 months of a major attack. So this is kind of huge numbers. The larger companies really will, most of them survive, but they suffer serious consequences. And if you just talk about the GDPR regulations that we are compliant to, of course, in Europe, that if there's a cyber breach at in your company, and you cannot show that you did all the things on the technical side that you were supposed to, and also on the people side, on teaching your employees, they will apply fines to you, and it can be up to 4% of the total global turnover. And if I just take a small calculation for the local airline, Iceland Air here, that means that they would lose one plane, one Boeing 437, whatever it was, 747. So it's a huge number we are talking about here. And this is global turnover. So for example, if it was Amazon or something, it would be 4% globally. So these are huge numbers. And the and actually with the GDPR, if I talk a little bit more about that, is actually in the GDPR you're compliant. If you are handling some kind of personal data, which all of you are doing basically within the tourist industry, you are compliant to teach your employees about cybersecurity and how to prevent breaches, basically. Well, it's not just money that you're losing. You're also what happens to your brand is it gets poisoned. So in some cases, your search results gets much worse. You come up when people are searching for your company, you pop up as you've been breached. You of course sales go down. You have a lot of unexpected expenses because when this happens, everything basically goes on fire. You're putting all your efforts into damage control. You're trying to minimize the damage, and you're not being able to focus your operations on your customers. It's basically you have to just be on the defense of making things okay again. When this happens, also it's harder for you to get good employees, new employees to hire you, especially in the tech industry, because when something like this happens, it's like if I have the choice of going to like a nice cozy job somewhere or walking into a shitstorm, I will always go for the cozy job. So it's kind of, and of course there are other legal penalties. You can have like personal claims against you and so forth. This is really a tough problem to solve because you have to, you can't solve it completely, but you can minimize the risk. So that's what we are always aiming for, minimizing the risk. And like Mirva said earlier, we have to have a strategy and focus on the right things. Because it can be, if you want to teach everybody about everything, it's going to be super complicated. And you have to invest in the work and in the effort. It's not just you have to invest in expensive tools or trainings or so on. You have to invest the effort of doing it with your employees and teaching. And I'm just going to go for 6 easy steps on how to do this. And the first, you have to kind of go through your employees and see that they are not all created equal. There are some employees within the company that have access, high access to sensitive data that are more than others. So if the tour guide might not have it, while the IT department has some access to sensitive data. So the important thing here is basically group your people into different risk profiles, and say, okay, I need to teach this one a lot and this one a little bit less, or something. So you're focusing your efforts. And there are because not all the employees are the same. But like I said, the same risk profile, if you would run on a risk profile on a person, depending on his job within the company, would mean with a completely different meaning. Other one could be high risk, another one could be a low risk, even though they had the same results. So start with the security profiles and put your employees into groups. Then you have to identify the threat areas and the key behaviors you want your employees to know. Threat areas can be something like phishing, sensitive data, physical security, passwords, working from home, and so on. It can be all kinds of, there are X number of threat areas there. And under each threat area, we have these key behaviors. For example, in phishing, which is by far the largest threat out there at the moment, is does the employee know how to identify phishing emails? Does he handle suspicious email with caution? Would he report the phishing attack attempt? And these are like the key behaviors that you need to be focusing on. So you have to basically go through the list and say, okay, this group of people need to know these things. Then you have the groundwork that you need. And then you make like this list for each and every role within the company. So you have like a list of all these things that you know, and then you know where to start and what to train them with. So you're not just grabbing trainings randomly and assigning to your people. And then you need some kind of way of, you have to select the training materials and some kind of learning management system that supports your needs. Depending on the size of the company, it might be enough for you just to basically just talk to people. If you have like 10 people, you can just talk to them and do just one-on-one trainings. But if you are, of course, in larger corporations, you of course need to have some kind of learning management system that distributes these trainings and follows up and nurtures them and monitors and sees everything is up to speed and so on. So selected training materials, that's actually interesting also, because if it's too long, if it's not interesting, if it's like not engaging, you're gonna lose your employees. They're not gonna do it. They are gonna resist it, and they're gonna hate you. So don't do that. And then, of course, you need to be able to somehow measure it. So select some kind of tool that you can like measure how you're going, how your efforts are moving. Otherwise, you're just in the dark. You need to be able to do the trainings and then measure before and after and see if you're moving the needle, if you're moving in the right direction, because this is important in all these efforts. And then just start the training path. The main thing here is just to start to do it. It doesn't have to be that complicated, but start with some trainings. And I really recommend doing it in bursts. So it's like every 2 weeks you get a short video. That's how our methodology works at AwareGO, is that we send out like every week or bi-weekly 3 super short training materials, and it's and assessments, and it only takes like 2 or 3 minutes each time. It's like super short, to the point, short stories. That's how it needs to be. So it's because otherwise you'll lose them after the first 2 or 3 sessions. They will really dread going to the 4th one, and they will do everything they can to not do it. And it's an ongoing journey. It never ends, because you're always assessing and training. It just moves in this endless circle. And it's so the key here is basically to have it short, interesting, and make it like relatable. A few tips and tricks in addition. You need to create a culture of security awareness within your company. And this is the most important part, that you have to create a sense of it okay to talk about security. If I see a suspicious email, I shouldn't be shy to tell my coworkers that, is this a phishing email, or can you look at this, or create some kind of culture where people are not ashamed of feeling like they're ignorant, or if they ask questions. You have to be, it's fine to ask questions. Just ask me. If you're in any doubt, just ask me. Don't hide it. So this is really a big part of it, and make it easy for the employees to do the right thing. You can do this by, for example, having a button in Outlook that says like this, report a phishing email or something. So it's like super easy to do things. So make it smooth, and it's not like they have to fill out a form and call someone, and they have to get wait on some line or something. Make it easy. That's one of the keys. And it's not enough to train just once a year. This is constant awareness. So you have to be constantly nudging. You have to be constantly putting up posters on the walls in the cafeteria or wherever you do it, and like always be keeping it on top of mind, because knowledge and it fades with time. So you need to be always reminding people. Well, it's important to train your employees on phishing. That's by far the largest one out there at the moment. But there's also other threat areas that you need to be aware of. It's not just and measure training effectiveness to mitigate threats faster. That's basically the key here. And also, like I mentioned earlier, select something that the employees love. Don't talk down to them. Don't select something that's kind of it's like made for children or something, and don't make it too complicated either. Have it somewhere in between, where it's like, do it. Our methodology is basically do it like advertising, short stories, to the point, simple, and like so it's like, oh, have you seen the latest video? Or so the employees are talking to each other about it in the during coffee. That, hey, did you see that? That's pretty funny, or something. So make it a conversation starter. Yeah. Here to sum up at the end, create the security profiles, identify the threat areas and the key behaviors that you need to be aware of, or your employees need to be aware of, make a plan and prioritize who needs to know what, and then select training material and learning management system that fits your need based on what you did here above. Select a tool that you can measure the status, and start training the pattern. Remember to measure regularly. And it's better to start today not perfect than later perfect. So it's like, start right away if you can. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. That was very inspiring as well on how we can engage our employees in cybersecurity. I think that's a very challenging topic. But yeah, I guess as many things, at the end it comes down really to people, no? And it comes down, yeah, to finding the right way to engage them in this process. So that was very inspiring as our second practical use case on cybersecurity. And with that, our content is over, and I'll open the floor for questions if there are any. I can't see any in the chat. If anyone here has a question for one of our speakers, you can raise your hand or directly take the floor. No questions? That means either that everything was incredibly clear, or that they're still processing the information, which has been quite a lot of information, I have to admit, and it's a dense topic to wrap one's mind around, let's say. So
I just have one quick, I'm sorry for
please.
And thank you all for great presentations. This was really inspiring, like you were just saying. I just have a practical one, because after each and every sector, we always get the question on how to get the material afterwards. Will we have that on YouTube, or where can we tell our people that they can find the recordings and everything?
Yes, very good question. Not technical one, a rather practical one, but we will have all the webinars up on YouTube once we have handled GDPR questions, because we're taking that very seriously, obviously, from the part on the part of the project. And once we have that settled, then we'll have them on YouTube. I hope that's not going to take very long, and they'll also be in the community with all the material. Okay, so that should also be there. If you're in the community, the Tourbit community, where we are sharing information about the project Tourbit, then you will also receive a notification about that. And if you're not there, then I kindly invite you to join the community, obviously, to stay tuned with our information. And yeah, these are the two places where you will be able to find the information. And I think it's also going to go up on our website, but I have to check that with the person in charge. But if at the end you cannot find the information, you're very welcome to drop an email to any of us from the project, and we'll help you out with that. Okay. So, and you're obviously very welcome to share that information with as many people as you can, because I think it's very, very relevant for almost everyone working in the tourism industry. To get started or to improve cybersecurity in their business. All right. Any more questions? If not, then I'll have a little get out for you, because we were talking about cybersecurity today. I would like to recommend a series that I like very much. It's rather an old one. It's called Mr. Robot. If anyone hasn't seen that series, then search for it online. It's very recommendable. So you can really get addicted to it. I at least did. So, and it's on the topic of cybersecurity. Very interesting one. Nothing to do with the tourism industry, just a little get out for you. Maybe rather for the winter, because now in the summer we rather enjoy nature, beach, tourism, whatever. All right, then I'd like to wrap it up here. Thank you again to all the speakers of today. It has been very inspiring listening to you. And I hope to see you all next week for the last one of our webinars of this series, which is on blockchain. So next week, same day, same time, from the location you like. So not same place, any place you like, because it's going to be online again. Okay, thank you everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.